welcome to Bunny's Designs. This is a live show, impromptu Sunday. Apologies, I want to say Saturday and it's Sunday. So these two books, I did a bit of a flip on Thursday, but unfortunately it won't upload to YouTube. It's on Ustream, but it won't upload. So these two books I bought last week, and they've really changed my direction in art. So it's inspired a little colour book that I wanted to do, but I thought I'd do a colour book flip because this is a fantastic little book. So I'll zoom in a little bit, see if we can see it a bit better. That might be better. So it's called The Great Book of Fairies Patterns by Laura S. Irish. The ultimate design source book for artists and craft people. So I'll do a really quick flip. So I was so amazed. I'd never seen anything like this book, and I bought it just because it said about fairies, and it was something like 99p. But when it arrived, it was like, oh my goodness. I read it twice. It's all about the history of fairies. And this particular artist, it tells you the history of fairies and the legends. And I'd never heard about old folklore and things like that. And the Lord of the Fairy Dance Rings and all sorts of things. And one of the tales which really inspired me was Hans Christian Andersen's Thumbelina. The fact that she didn't have wings, but when she married the fairy prince, she got wings. And that really, really inspired me to kind of really look about these fairies. And the other thing I hadn't realised is that fairies can have different wings. They don't have to have butterfly wings. And this book is all about patterns, so you can change them and alter them. Again, which is such a fantastic thing. So this one's got bee wings, this one's got dragonfly wings, butterfly wings, moth wings, bird wings, leaf wings, and bat wings. So of course you understand now this book, which has all British moths in it, dragonflies, even flies. I think Thumbelinas were a white fly set of wings. So all these beautiful wings I can draw and put on the fairies. Wasp wings, as well as all the flowers that the fairies will be living with. Then you can change the poses of these particular fairies. And there's a mannequin that you can change. And the wonderful thing about this shows you how to make things, different poses. And I had a great idea. So you can make your fairies fly if you want. And then it talks about the different styles, sitting positions, standing, moths, butterflies. And then we have some artwork. So it's a wonderful little book if you're really inspired about fairies. And then the fairies were dressed either in rags or in finery and queen princess type robes. So then you've got placing the fairy in the scene, and that's again where this little book comes in. And then we have the fairy patterns, and this there are drawn sketches, and then there are line drawings. So I could actually colour these in if we wanted to. Lots and lots and lots of patterns and designs that you can think about, and different faces and different clothes, with big fairy wings or small fairy wings. Lots and lots of different variations. And I really loved this book. I thought it was quite different to any other book that I'd seen. And they're all kind of named. That's just hanging out. Kind of Flutterby Iris, Petticoat Lace, Roses are Red. There's some fantastic sketches and ideas of where to place. Bat wings, I think, is wonderful. Never thought to put a bat wing on a fairy. And the other thing is that there's bee wings, butterfly wings, dragonflies, feathers, bird feathers, moth wings, leaf wings, especially now with autumn in England. We've got autumn and fall, so we've got all these russets and golds and browns. Some very, very nice ideas, either to use directly or to alter slightly. And this book goes on and on, probably only halfway through. There's pixies, and the other thing I was interested in, that not all fairies are good. They kind of can be mischievous and can be a little bit dark, as in the bat wings. And again, that kind of gives you another insight into these fairies and that kind of life, kind of, if you're kind of inspired to draw, write about them. So all these things are kind of whirling around in my head, that fairies have their own lives. They're not just wrapped around the humans. And I kind of like that idea. So all in the back of my head, I had this kind of very strange story. So I thought it might be okay for an adult's storybook to colour rather than a children's storybook. And I can't really write a book as in a novel book because I'm illiterate, really. I can't really write and I can't really talk, so that wouldn't be an option for me. So I thought this might be good. So we're getting to the end, and at the end there are two mannequins to make. There is a front-facing mannequin and there is a side-facing. Now you can make these out of cardboard, out of paper. You can make them out of whatever you want. Now I found some stiff card, which was a real bad idea because my hands were very bad. So my mannequin isn't brilliant, and I only had a pokey tool. I couldn't find, when I drew around it, these were too small for a hole punch, and I couldn't use a hole punch anyway. So I ended up with a front-facing mannequin, and I made it with the little grommets. No, they're not called grommets. Forgot what these are called. Oh, I cannot think what they're called. And I used quite big ones because one of them has got 3 layers. So we've got an arm, a wing, a head, a body, a wing, and an arm. So you can move them. Mine is a bit stiffer, but I wanted it to be a little bit stiffer. You can move the wings. You can move the legs, make them sit, so they could be sitting on a toadstool. Whoopsie, they can be sitting on a toadstool. I'll just shut the book because I think it's the colour. So she can be sitting on a toadstool. Or she can be lying down, or she can be flying. So I thought this book was fantastic. Oh, thank you, Brenda. Thank you. I've just shown the little cat that nobody often sees because she's always out killing something or other. Bless her. So I love the fact that you can do what you like with these mannequins. So the other thing I want to do is a long time ago when I was a little girl in the 70s, we had thin magazines that came out with a few pages, and the back page and the front were made out of thicker paper, probably like card, and the back one was a pop-out doll, paper doll. And the pages, the few, probably about 12 pages in this magazine, were the pop out, tear out, cut out clothes for the dolls at the back. And they were kind of very similar to this. So they would have a boot. They would have a boot. And it would be perforated so you could pop it out. But then there would be little tags on the side. I'll show this in a second. And the tags were plain white. And what you did is you popped this out and then you put it on the foot and you turned the tabs and made a crease, and the little things would sit on them. Now I was going to do that, and then I suddenly thought, well, actually we've got repositionable tape these days, so I'm going to get, or repositionable glue, so I'm going to get some repositionable glue or tape, and I'm going to make these beautiful gowns in these books out of paper, perhaps watercolour paper, and then I'll be able to put them on my mannequins. And I would have some really nice watercolour gowns to put onto my fairies, and then when I position them and add them into the scenes and add toadstools and flowers and maybe the wings would be butterfly wings, dragonfly wings, moth wings, butterfly wings, whichever wings that I choose. I can swap the clothes and I can swap the wings about and make my own kind of colours and my own fairies for my story and use them as a colour book. And I just thought you might find that interesting, but that book is pretty amazing and she shares all her wonderful designs with you. And so from something as simple as a wildlife book and a fairy book, something quite magical can come from it. So that's my inspiration for my fairy storybook, which is going to be an adult colouring book. But this book is really, really fantastic for lots of ideas for the fairies and for the backgrounds and for their wings. So thank you for watching.